Good evening and welcome to another episode of HC Highlanders Live. I'm Jason Muker, Associate AD, joined by Athletic Director Matthew Webb. This is our first episode since our students have come back. We had some three move-in days, kind of a phased-in move-in day over the weekend, this past weekend, and majority of the student body has arrived. Excited to see a lot of our student athletes here as well, and the interactions we've had them. Obviously, some restrictions from a safety standpoint of what they are not allowed to do, but obviously there are some restrictions in terms of reorienting them to campus under these new circumstances with COVID, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and our special guest will go into a little bit about that, what that means for the entire college and how this process has worked out. Some exciting news on some facility reopenings that we're going to be allowed to do under New York State guidelines, and Matt will talk a little bit about that and what is going in for the planning for that. So Matt, I'll turn it over to you and you can share your news.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So it's been a lot are back. A lot of our students are back. A lot of our student athletes are back, and that's exciting. It's sort of happening across the country, and it's happening here too. And it's obviously a little different with some of the guidelines and limitations that we have. But we had a department meeting Sunday night, and we went over just sort of the expectations for our student athletes. And I think they've responded really, really well to that. And I look out my window, I see outside, groups of student athletes using the outdoor facilities at this point. Our indoor facilities are still closed, hoping to open those up soon, but using our outdoor facilities and practicing social distancing and just being real good about trying to get through the beginning part here of this semester with the expectations that we've put on everyone. So we're also going to be introducing tomorrow to our faculty, staff, employee community, 10 new staff members here in our department. And I just want to briefly go through those names. We don't have pictures of those folks, but we've got quite a few new staff in our department this year that we're excited about. Our women's basketball program, we've got a new women's basketball coach, Phil Pellegrinos, joining as our new coach. His new assistant, Erica Ballman. She comes from Monmouth University and then most recently playing professionally in Germany this past year. Rachel Fortney, a recent grad, is joining our women's soccer program. Amanda Poulin is a recent graduate from Gordon College, and she'll be our new assistant field hockey coach. Olivia Scarborough is a recent grad from Grace College in Indiana, and she's coming in as a graduate student here at Houghton and also as our assistant softball coach. Isaiah Specs just graduated from Trinity University, actually a year ago in Texas, and he'll be joining our men's basketball staff. Taylor Wiederecht is a recent graduate of Messiah University, and she's coming in as our assistant cross-country track and field coach. Zach Schilbach is a 2019 Houghton grad. He's joining us as an assistant tennis coach and an assistant in athletics administration. Austin Walden is a recent grad from Alfred University, and he's joining us as an assistant athletic trainer. And then lastly, Allie Holmquist is joining us as an assistant in athletics admin and our assistant women's lacrosse coach. And Allie is also the recipient of an NCAA grant that is a fully funded position that we applied for and received. So that's kind of an exciting thing. So I want to introduce our guest to you, Dean Marc Smithers. He is our Dean of Students. Marc has been heading up the prep team, which is our group of folks here at the college that have been working on preparing to reopen and bring all of our students back and what school is going to look like. And that has probably so many tentacles that come off of what that means that we can't even touch on all of those things. But Marc, maybe just as a brief introduction, maybe just a little bit about yourself, your background. I know you're a Houghton grad. Sort of when did that happen, and maybe your academic pursuits? I know you're in the throes of trying to finish up a project, but maybe just a little background of who you are, how you've ended up in the position that you're at, and then we can jump into what your summer's been like and how you're feeling about everybody being back.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. My name is Marc Smithers. I'm the Dean of Students. I am the fourth person in my family to graduate from Houghton. Actually, my mom graduated from Houghton back in 1977, actually. So overlapped with President Mullen way back in the day. And she had introduced us to Houghton. Two of my sisters went here. They graduated both before I got here in 2003 and 2004. I didn't apply anywhere else. I knew that I wanted to come to Houghton as soon as I visited them, while they were here at college. I came into Houghton wanting to be a history teacher, and then I quickly changed course and actually graduated with a degree in political science. Thought I wanted to go into the ministry. I was a youth pastor for a year. That was the same year that I married my wife, who also went to Houghton as well, and realized that youth ministry wasn't necessarily for me, but I wanted to maybe get into college ministry. And so a position opened up at Houghton in order for me to be an RD in Rothenbuehler. Even though I was a Shen man when I was a student, I was the RD for Rothenbuehler for 4 years, actually. Thought for sure I was going to go into college ministry from there, maybe go on and go to seminary, become a dean of the chapel kind of idea. I had a great relationship with Dean Britton when I was a student, so I wanted to be him at some college, but then that just didn't happen. Doors kept sort of opening in student life, and I grew to love it even more, actually. And so I became the Dean of Students sort of through just getting more and more involved and invested in the Residence Life program here, and then in some student engagement work that I was able to do. And I took over being the Chief Student Life Officer. I'm entering my second year being the Chief Student Life Officer, but this is my third year actually being the Dean of Students. As you had mentioned, I'm currently in a grad program at Abilene Christian University in Texas, getting a doctorate in organizational leadership with a concentration in higher education. So I don't know if you want to know anything else about me, but that's sort of my career in a nutshell.
No, thanks, Marc. That's interesting, and there's probably more parallels in our paths. I'm in athletics, but I started as an RD at Houghton as well. I was in Shen, so I don't know how you go from living in Shen to being the RD in Roth. You know, there's different cultures there, aren't there? But years ago, I was the RD in Shen, and then spent 10 years in student life. And my supervisor at the time, Bob Danner, longtime Dean of Students at Houghton, really was encouraging and pushing me to pursue my education and doctoral work. And I eventually I got a PhD in organizational leadership as well. So I've obviously landed in athletics in a full-time capacity, but I have a student life background, and I think that helps shape and frame a lot of how I think about athletics and how we want athletics to run here at Houghton. So I think it's a real good fit. Well, why don't you talk to us about how your summer's been? An unusual summer in preparing for the students to be back, and I know not all of our students are back, but a majority of them are, I think. And how's that transition been? You know, it's been just a few days. The first student started arriving on Friday, so I suppose, you know, we've had some students here 4 or 5 days now. How's that transition been so far? What's it look like, and how are we doing?
Yeah, so the summer 2020 has been a year like no other, I think. If I were to sort of project back in January what I was expecting this year to be like, I don't think anybody would have thought we were in this position. And I think Houghton is in a particularly advantageous place, both geographically but also culturally, to respond well to the current challenges of the global pandemic. Even back in March, when we needed to transition quickly to be online, there's just a flexibility, a resiliency, and a compassion that our students are just really, they're just really well equipped to exhibit. I've just been very impressed with the way that students have responded so positively to what could be perceived as a very negative situation. I mean, even as we are welcoming our students back this weekend, while there have been obviously some disappointments, I think, when you talk about reentry into the college, and it doesn't necessarily feel exactly like, okay, this isn't the Houghton that I left. So what is this Houghton? Even as students are continuing to make sense of that, it's not coming from a position of despair. They're coming at it from a position of like, all right, this is a new challenge. One of the things that has been impressive to me is, I've talked with students who said, I can't wait to see what God teaches me through this. They're looking at this as an opportunity to grow in their faith, grow in their education, and you just don't get that in everywhere that you work. I think one of the things that I just love about my job, and I love about student life in particular, but specifically student life at Houghton, is just we have fantastic students to work with. Really, really great, just earnest people that really love being here, that really love this place, and really want to see it thrive. So in terms of how it's going, so the summer was a challenge as we made our reopening plan and got all those things in place. I did weekly addresses to the community and tried to make sure that everybody knew what the semester was going to be like, as much as we could, but as much as we could possibly sort of give people a picture of that. That was challenging, but it was also, I mean, very, very encouraging. Just the number of notes that we've received from parents and students who said, I know that these are challenging circumstances, but Houghton's doing such a great job. Houghton's really being attentive to both the social and emotional and academic needs of my student, but also making sure that they're entering as healthy and as safe as a campus as they can be. It's just been very affirming. And I would say that that's been my experience over the first just few days of having students back here on campus. I had somebody ask me the question the other day, is it weird to have students back? And the question was coming from they haven't been here since March. And because I live on campus, I very much go with the student flow, I suppose. I can really tell when students are here, and I can really tell when students are not here, just in terms of my daily family life. And most summers, I would say around the beginning of July, mid-July, I get really antsy, and I want our students to be back, just because it's just so fun. I love having students here, and I love that's why I work at a college. That's why Houghton exists, is to develop students, and so we want them here. I didn't have that same kind of antsiness just because it was a very busy summer. It felt like I couldn't really get to that point of like feeling, oh man, I really want students back. But then as soon as students started to arrive, I was like, oh yeah, there's that feeling. Oh, I'm so glad that they're back. And so, over the past few days, that excitement has just ramped up. And as students are entering into an environment that has more restrictions, because just the reentry process for our students is the riskiest time of the semester, because people are coming from all over the world to this one place. We need to try to make it so that if a virus were to come back to campus with them, it won't have the possibility of infecting that many people, because we're restricting in-person gatherings. Even with those restrictions, as each day grows closer to September 7th, when we can restart in-person classes, that excitement is just building within me, and I'm hoping that it's. I can sense that's palpable within students as well. That they're growing very, very anxious and excited to just be able to see what life is going to be like not without restrictions, because we still have those restrictions of masking and social distancing, but it's less so. And I've just been impressed with how on board our students are in general with what Houghton is like right now under COVID. I know it's challenging, and they know it's challenging, but they also they love this place and they love each other, and I think that that supersedes any sort of disappointment that they might feel that they can't, hug each other when they see each other on the quad. They can. Our students are pretty creative, so they can withstand that.
Virtual hugs.
That's right. I said long distance high fives.
There you go. I think you hit on something, Mark. I mean, I completely resonate with just sort of who our students are. Like I said, we had a meeting. So I had a meeting on Sunday night with all of our coaches and team leaders, captains and such, and basically sort of spelled out, I think more specifically, sort of what the expectation is, sort of relative to athletic activity. And I mean, our students are just chomping at the bit to get back out with their team, and they want to use our weight room and our facilities. And we're working really hard right now with just new released guidelines that came out about what it means to open up athletic facilities. And Jason, in fact, is doing a lot of work on that right now, trying to prepare and be ready for the health department to be here on Thursday to sort of the indoor facilities. The outdoor facilities are fine, but our 2 indoor facilities. So we're real hopeful that can all open up. But again, back to that meeting, it was pretty direct, and I think some things that maybe they didn't want to hear. They want to be together, they want to be out, they want to be doing stuff in our fields, and there's just some limitations that have to be had. And anyhow, after that meeting, you just talk about the kinds of students that we have. And I got a message from one of our student leaders on one of the teams just thanking me for the meeting and acknowledging that wasn't maybe the funnest thing to have to say, and just appreciating, me. And it just feels good, and it just sort of affirms a little bit who they are. And then following that meeting, everything I've observed, people are getting out and exercising, and that's what we want. We want to encourage that, but they're doing it, under the guidelines that we've sort of set forward for these 2 weeks. So that's been really encouraging. So, as you think about getting to September 7 and fully opening back up, what's that going to look like then as students start going to class? We obviously have plans in place. Our athletic teams are planning to begin practicing at that time, and we've got sort of a whole phasing in sort of guideline following NCAA and New York State guidelines of how that's going to look. But what's going to class look like, going to meals? It's much more restricted now, but they'll be able to eat in the dining hall. What does going to class look like? How's that actually going to work come September 7th?
Yeah, so once September 7th hits, we really want to, right now we're really discouraging in-person interaction. We essentially just want to flip that completely when September 7th hits. We want people to be with each other. I almost want to say as much as possible, because we want them to soak in as much in-person interaction as they can get, because we do have a sort of a shortened semester. Once Thanksgiving break hits, students aren't returning after break. They're finishing the rest of the semester remotely. So take full advantage of those, however many weeks it is, 14 weeks or so, and just really try and spend as much time as you can with other people. There are certain restrictions, obviously. Students aren't going to be really sharing their rooms with other people. So like open hours are suspended for this semester, and students largely are just going to sort of stay in their room with their roommate. But that means, I'm actually sort of excited, that means that they're not going to hopefully stay in their rooms, that they're going to be out in the lounges, out on the quad, in the campus center, just hanging out with groups of people, masking, social distancing, obviously, but hopefully in situations where they're just soaking in the in-person interactions that they can have. In terms of going to class is going to look very similar for most students. They're going to be attending a lecture. They're going to be social distanced from each other and wearing a mask. But other than that, it's sort of what class typically is. There's a hybrid flexible options for most classes this semester. So students who are unable to return to campus for whatever reason, they can still participate from a distance. And that will, classes actually start on Monday. The first week of classes are remote.
Mhm.
So they'll already have that sort of introduction to what class is like, with including remote learners in classes that are taught in person. But students will be going to class in person starting September 7th. In the dining hall, we have restricted some of the seating that we have upstairs just to make sure that social distancing can occur, and obviously you can't be masked up there, but students are going to be able to eat with others. There's no more than 4 chairs at a table, so students will only really be eating with 3 other people, and we've encouraged them to eat with the same people as much as they can, just to make contact tracing easier, not to open themselves up to too many possible exposures to other people. But other than that, it's going to look somewhat similar. About the only big difference that will happen on September 7th is we all of the utensils and things that they're using are actually going to be disposable, which, as a person who cares a lot about sustainability, I don't love that, but that's the moment that we're in right now. We have to prioritize health and safety right now over other things.
Health and safety trumps saving the world, saving the planet.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Well, no, that's good. And maybe just for anyone who's watching, what we're planning in athletics is obviously going to look different this fall. We don't have any events. We don't have any competition, intercollegiate competition. And we're hoping to roll out by the end of next week for all of our students to sort of know the plan for the semester is we've got a group of our coaches are working on providing events, competitive experiences, more in the intramural umbrella, for not just our student athletes, but all of our students. So they're getting real creative with just a wide range of activities that are going to be utilizing and encouraging a lot of our outdoor facilities, probably a little bit more than we normally would, because obviously being outdoors is better than being indoors. But things like disc golf tournament with our new disc golf course, 3-point shooting contest, and things that we might also be able to stream and view. So, parents could tune in and watch some of these things, to, maybe softball, kickball kinds of leagues, opportunities, all things that, and then some creative competitive kinds of elements. We're actually looking at doing something on homecoming. Homecoming is usually a big day for athletics, and obviously there's no competition. So we are doing a virtual homecoming alumni event. We're calling it the Locker Room, and that'll be happening in the morning. But we're talking about creating some maybe team. Got to get creative with this, but some competitive sort of activities for our teams to participate in that afternoon. So the idea is to be doing something every weekend, that there will be some sort of element that or activity that students can sign up for, participate in. So we're just trying to ramp up sort of those opportunities, since we don't have, our typical slew of volleyball, soccer, field hockey, basketball games, that people could go to. So that's a little bit what we're doing in athletics during this time, that the fall is going to look different. So,
yeah.
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate your time. Appreciate all you're doing for Houghton and our community. I know it's been a lot. I've enjoyed working with you in the process, and I feel badly sometimes. It feels like every day I've got another question for you. You're probably the fielder of all questions these days, but we appreciate what you're doing for our students, our student athletes, but our student and our community as a whole. And thanks for your leadership and all that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Matt, and I appreciate working with all of your staff, and our student athletes are especially great to work with. So I pass on my thanks to them.
Sure. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.